Most paranormal stories with real murder mysteries also turn out to be true crime stories with unexpected endings as well. All murder cases, even when solved, end in true horror. But in some strange but true stories, the crime scene evidence could come from the paranormal side. In other cases, the real culprit was much scarier than any ghost. Number 5. The paranormal mystery of Marycousset began on April 25, 1983. The 27-year-old left her residence in Alton, Illinois, only to become a troubling missing person case with an unbelievable ending that has since been solved. Detectives did not know it, but the events they were investigating would lead to a scary true crime mystery, one that involved foul play, and the creepy backstory behind how this case was solved sounds fake but is 100% real. When multiple searches found no evidence, investigators turned to the paranormal world to help solve the strange mystery of what had happened to Marycousset. Greta Alexander was a famous local psychic who'd been getting crime cases solved for years, always free of charge. Her clairvoyant visions were often strange but true, as would be the case in this mystery. The unsolved disappearance of Marycousset, she told investigators, was different from most other missing person cases because it was a real murder mystery. On a map, she pointed to a body of water where she said the missing body could be found. Police had searched there once before and found no evidence of a crime. Detectives were told that their investigation needed to refocus on this area because it was the true crime scene. She just knew it. Greta was confident because, according to her, these were paranormal stories told firsthand to her by none other than Marycousset's ghost, stories that were told by a person who was missing a foot and covered in red. In her vision, Greta and Mary were standing at the crime scene, a muddy embankment near a bridge, as Mary told her the true horror story of her murder. Crime detectives took extensive notes on a series of psychic predictions that would later come true. Not only was the missing body of Mary found in the same location as Greta's premonition, but also with the foot missing, and some other clues that would prove true. Greta had said the person who found Mary would have a bad hand, and that the initial S would be important. The S could stand for Steve True, the detective who eventually found her body, and who had also messed up their hand years ago at a factory job. The S could have also stood for Stanley Holiday, her boyfriend, who made a criminal confession in which Mary had met an unexpected ending with a screwdriver. With the psychic's help, he was arrested just days after her disappearance and later sentenced to 10 years. Number 4. This is the scary mystery of Mariska Irini Cornisi, a Romanian born in 1982 who was abandoned and sent to an orphanage at the age of 2. As an adult, she joined a remote monastery in the Carpathian Mountains, just outside the small village of Tănăsu, where her life would end in a truly horrifying murder mystery. Not long after arriving in 2005, Irini began hearing voices and would hiss, growl, and shout at random. After she began attacking others, she was restrained and taken to the hospital, where she was found to have late-stage terminal illness and a number of psychological disorders. The leader of the monastery, Father Coraginu, thought that this was a mystery of the paranormal variety that could be solved with a ceremony. Irini was chained to a makeshift cross, anointed with holy oils, and prayed over for 3 days. Her untold story reached the rest of the world after the nuns contacted a hospital. The sister had fallen into a coma and was unresponsive. According to the paramedics, she would not make it to the hospital before succumbing to dehydration, exhaustion, and a lack of air from using tape and towels. Father Coraginu and 4 nuns were charged with the murder case. At trial, they insisted that they'd freed Irini from the paranormal influence. Coraginu was sentenced to 14 years in prison, and the nuns to 5 and 6 years each. Meanwhile, as each of them continued to appeal their sentences, evidence of an even greater mystery emerged. A 2014 examination of Irini's body found that she'd passed away from an incorrect dosage of adrenaline that had been administered by paramedics on the way to the hospital. This forensic evidence no doubt helped Father Korzeniu get his sentence reduced from 14 years to 7, because he could no longer directly be proven to have been responsible for her murder. The 5 and 6 year sentences of the nuns were upheld. The priest insisted that his paranormal story was true, and that the ceremony would have been successful had the paramedics not intervened. Number 3. In 1589, Peter Stump confessed to ending the lives of 16 others. In this paranormal mystery, the courts accused Stump of wishing to become a werewolf and claiming that the devil had made it possible. Evidence of the bizarre paranormal case comes from 3 sources: a 1590 German pamphlet published after Peter's trial, a 1621 book called Demonology, and the diary of a German politician named Hermann von Weisberg. According to these historic records, Peter was born sometime around 1564, near the town of Bedburg in Cologne, Germany. In one version of events, a local farmer took the left paw of a wolf on his property, only to encounter Peter, who was likewise missing a hand. In a different paranormal story, Peter is spotted in wolf form and chased by villagers. During the chase, a magical belt given to him by the devil fell off, causing him to revert to his human form. This historic event was apparently witnessed by many. While much of this paranormal mystery sounds too strange to be true, in prison he made a criminal confession to a number of murder cases, spanning more than 20 years. According to him, a succubus messenger from Satan gave him a magical belt that allowed him to transform into a wolf-like beast. However, this criminal confession was most likely to bring an end to a long and horrifying inquisition. On October 31st, 1589, he was ended at the hands of the townspeople. Several members of the aristocracy were present, including an archbishop, to make sure the paranormal mystery was solved for good. Modern historians have suggested that Peter may have been chased down and persecuted simply for being a Protestant in a Catholic town. Number 2. In 1981, Alan Bono had his life ended by Arnie Jackson during an argument gone wrong. Crime investigators arrested Arnie just an hour after he left Alan to meet an unexpected ending on the floor. The murder case seemed solved, but his defense lawyer told a highly unusual story, one of a paranormal mystery. A year before the crime, Arnie had moved into the small Connecticut town of Brooklyn with Debbie, his girlfriend. Debbie's younger brother, David, who was 11 years old, began to tell paranormal stories of a demon with black eyes, jagged teeth, horns, and hooves. When a priest could not stop these ghost stories from persisting, the family brought in the most famous paranormal investigators in the world, Ed and Lorraine Warren. They agreed the child could have been overtaken by a spiritual force, and that's when Arnie told the forces most evil to relent with David and take him instead. Shortly after this declaration is when he and Alan Bono had that final frightening confrontation. When Arnie was brought to trial, his defense attorney planned to enter a plea of not guilty by reason of demonic possession. However, the judge struck this criminal defense down, arguing that such a story would be impossible to prove true. The young man was sentenced to 10 to 20 years in prison on November 24, 1981, of which he served 5. The famous murder mystery case has been featured in a number of best-selling paranormal books and movies, including The Conjuring 3. However, several of the people involved in the real-life horror story, including his ex-girlfriend Debbie, the Warrens, and his defense attorney, still believe the scary person that Arnie Johnson had become was the unexpected ending of something most evil. In 2014, the lawyer famously told true crime reporters, quote, "What I saw in Arnie as a young guy has profoundly affected me the rest of my life." Number 1. Perhaps one of the most famous paranormal murder mystery cases of all happened in Amityville, New York. Ronald Butch DeFeo Jr. was the oldest son of parents Ronald and Louise DeFeo. Butch worked for his father's dealership, but rarely showed up to work, and reportedly spent most of his time drinking and arguing with everyone, including his parents. In the early hours of November 13, 1974, Butch unbelievably took the life of his sleeping father with a .35 caliber. He did the same to his mother and all 4 of his younger siblings, all between 9 and 18 years old. He then took a shower, got dressed, and disposed of the crime scene evidence by throwing clothing and other belongings down a sewer grate. That evening, he returned to the house and pretended to discover what had happened to his family, a real-life horror story that he had created. At first, investigators believed his story that a mobster could have targeted the DeFeos. However, when detectives learned how Butch made sure to tell each and every one of his coworkers that he couldn't get a hold of his parents on the day of the murders, they became suspicious that he was constructing an alibi. When interviewed again, he made a criminal confession. At trial, he said that demonic voices made him do it. In 1992, he would claim that his attorney had made up his insanity defense at trial. He was sentenced to life in prison and passed away in 2021. The paranormal story behind the Amityville House, though, technically is a solved true crime case, but still has a number of unanswered mysteries. The true crime community still cannot explain how nobody woke up as he went from room to room, or how the neighbors did not wake up as the shots rang out. Also, a different family had moved into the Amityville house in December of 1975, and moved out just as quickly. For 28 days, the Lutz family lived in the haunted house before fleeing the property, claiming ghostly torment from the DeFeo ghosts. Their paranormal ghost stories included green slime oozing from the house, uncontrollably levitating in their beds, and slamming windows and doors without warning. Though at least one Lutz family member has said that it was a hoax, the truth behind this paranormal mystery will likely never be fully solved. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But my name is Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.